Ronald with Mark Person for the Ronald Reagan Foundation, and we want to thank you for sponsoring this event here today for Investor Business. What we'd like to ask you is, could you give us a little background of the Reagan Library and the foundation itself?
Sure, absolutely. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation is a private organization that sustains all of the activities here at the library, and we have three main venues, if you will, up here: the Library Museum, the Center for Public Affairs, which is our adult education programming, and then our Presidential Learning Center, which are programming and activities for school children K through 12. The Foundation's mission is to provide all of the funding to put on events, everything from programs like today to exhibits that you see at the museum.
Well, for the people who haven't been here, and you're missing it if you haven't been out to the Reagan Library, can you describe some of the unique artifacts that we have in your collection?
Absolutely. This facility is 153,000 square feet, and it contains virtually everything that occurred during the Reagan presidency, as well as housing a tremendous amount of his personal papers that extend from pre-presidential through his post-presidential years. There are over 100,000 artifacts here in the collection, primarily from the 8 years that he is in office. And some of those that we're most proud of are certainly the Berlin Wall, piece of the Berlin Wall that we have here. In addition to that, we have a full-scale replica of the Oval Office that you can come and see, particularly if you can't find a way to get back to Washington, D.C., you can come here to Simi Valley. And
a picture with 10,000 jelly beans.
Absolutely. that hangs in our museum floor. To give you a sense of the scope of the collection, the oldest item in the collection is a cannonball that was hurled by the Romans against the Jews at Masada. Wow. So you can see that you find a lot of different items in the presidential library.
This is great. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us on the cutting edge.
Well, tell us some more, Mark, if you will, about how you got involved with the foundation.
Well, it was a serendipitous route. I was volunteered to come here after spending my first career in the public relations business. And it has been quite challenging and rewarding, and an honor to work for the president.
And how long have you been with the foundation now?
I've been with the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation for 4 years now, and we have a lot going on, and in the next several years we're going to expand the facility primarily by bringing the President's Air Force One here on site, and right over my shoulder is where that new building is going to be built in the next 2 years.
Well, now that you have the oldest living president, he's 91 years old this year, February 6th, what celebrations are you suggesting for this year?
Well, we had a great birthday celebration on February 6th, and what we did was we invited the Miyazaki Cherry Tree Association of Simi Valley to come up here. They donated 20 cherry trees in his honor. They now line the walkway, and through the years I think they will become a great reminder of the friendship between the United States and Japan, but also enhance the beauty of the library.
Mark Burson, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Investor Business Daily. And I want to thank you very much for hosting this event today. I think, especially in the economic times that we're in, I think it's important for people to have a forum we can get together and compare notes. We've got some powerhouse lineup of people coming in today.
I think so.
So tell us a little bit about Investor Business Daily.
Investors Business Daily is now, we'll celebrate our 19th anniversary next month. Basically started because we felt there was a need for another newspaper in this country, a national newspaper, especially with superior information about the economy and about the financial markets. And this is something we started a year ago in conjunction with the Reagan Foundation. We think that's part and parcel of what we do. Helping educate people, inform them, inspire them if we can do that as well. In the paper every day and through functions like this.
What is your circulation?
We're about 300,000. We're gaining market share against the Wall Street Journal every year, nearly every year of our history. And we're nationwide. We're particularly strong here in Southern California, here in the Ventura County area.
Is there one particular area of your newspaper that sets you apart from the others?
I think you have to look at the data. Our founder, our chairman, William O'Neill, has been in the securities research business for 30, 40, 50 years, investment advisory, providing professional investors with data that he felt should be made available to the public at large, and felt that even papers as brave as the Wall Street Journal and others are not getting the job done as far as getting the information, especially about the financial markets and the economy that the public at large needed. So we are providing, I think if there's one thing you see in our paper, it's information about the economy and financial markets that until we came along 20 years ago was never available to you and me and the average person in the street.
How about editorial policy? What's the bent for the paper?
On the editorial page itself, we're a business newspaper. I would say, if I were to sum it up, we are pro-capitalism, pro-free market, pro-entrepreneur, pro-growth, pro-America. Some people might say that might make us an alternative publication in this day and age, but I think that sums it up very well. We're great admirers of President Reagan and what he accomplished economically, and I think that's one of the reasons the Reagan Foundation invited us. That this makes a lot of sense, this function here at the library. They have a public policy series or forums all year long. A couple of years ago, they thought that this makes eminent sense to me. They wanted that economic component to that, and you consider what Ronald Reagan did in terms of economic policy in the 80s, 20 years ago now. That should be part of their regular series of helping educate the public out there.
Let's do a quick update here, Wes. You've assembled some of the most prestigious people in the country for this event, but let's see if we can upstage them a little bit and say, what do you think about the economy right now and where it's going?
It's a very difficult period. I don't think we've ever seen a period like this, and I think you learned that today. I think a lot of these people here today will be bullish long term, but I think you'll hear some concerns about we've been through a period here, especially in market, unlike any since the 1920s. I think you'll hear our chairman talk about how similar the last 2 years have been to 1929. I think you'll hear him say that those are very unusual times. You just don't come straight out of a recession like we're having right now. It takes a while to work your way out of that. A lot of people have been hurt. I think it's going to take some time for people to mend. But long term, I don't think we have anything.
Wes Mann, editor of the Investor Business Daily. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you for coming. All right.
This was a fundamentally held belief from which he never wavered. In a new book that sheds some much-needed light on the president's intellect, you will find a radio address 2 decades old that captures in his own hand his belief in our free market and his unbounded faith in our potential. It is titled, quite appropriately, Free Enterprise, and I heartily recommend you read it. By the way, as you would expect, we too follow the very free market principles the president made popular, and accordingly you can find a copy of Reagan in his own hand on sale now in our museums. Throughout this day, we will define and describe the comprehensive range of domestic economic policy and global market affairs. We will examine literally where we are and try to determine not only where we are going, but how to get there. If we need to accelerate the pace or turn back now and seek a new direction. But as we do this, we pay tribute to Ronald Reagan, a graduate of Eureka College with a degree in economics, by spanning the economic landscape and seeing how right he was. A full 20 years since his election to the White House and more than 12 since his return to private life, the economic dialogue is still being conducted on his issues and on his terms, far, far away from what he called the old and comfortable way. When he assumed the presidency, top tax rates were in the 70% range. Today they are half of that and probably coming down further. Today the talk is not whether Reagan was right, The answer is so obvious. That's because our leaders today talk of how much to cut taxes, not if, how much to control government spending, not if, when to balance the budget, not if, how much to recognize the entrepreneurial spirit, how much to reward risk-taking and innovation to fuel our economy. This sea change exists today because Ronald Reagan tamed the choppy economic waters that oiled Washington from 20 years ago, and he is why our economic outlook remains bright. I'd be thankful if you'd allow me to quote my favorite economist, quote, "Only when the human spirit is allowed to invent and create, only when individuals are given a personal stake in deciding economic policies and benefiting from their success, only then can societies remain economically alive, dynamic, progressive, and free." Powerful words, aren't they? Well, after all, Ronald Reagan was an economist. And speaking of economists, where would we be without journalists to keep them honest? Dearest friends, esteemed trustees, honored guests, I'm delighted to introduce to you the editor-in-chief of Investors Business Daily and my friend, Wes Mann.
Privilege to introduce the Chairman and President of British Council of Economic Advisors, the Honorable Dr. Glenn Hubbard.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Some of you may be wondering if I've ever had a real job. That's often the case with academic economists. I can assure you that I have. I was a tour guide in Cinderella's castle. So I definitely have a lot of private sector experience. What I'd like to do today is perhaps not what you expect. I'm happy to talk to anybody about the day-to-day life in Washington, about battles over the stimulus package, or anything else you might like to talk about. But what I'd like to spend my few minutes with you on is to talk a little bit about the longer term. At a time when we're trying to wage a war against terrorism, that's abroad and at home, and we're trying to wage a war against subpar economic performance, I think it's important to step back from time to time and look at our overall battle plan as a country and as economists. And what I'd like to do is, in a sense, go back a little bit, particularly with a setting like this at the Reagan Library, and talk about the history of the rebellion that we all know so well, and link it very much to current policy discussion. There's another lesson of this that I think colors the current debate in Washington. Policy should never be envisioned in static terms. I don't like discussions of small business versus large business, because I see an economy in which businesses change and prosper and sometimes fail. I don't like discussions of employed versus unemployed, because it mixes the terrific search pattern we see in our society. Likewise, science and technology continue to fuel U.S. economic growth by a third around the world, combined with trade promotion of authority at present peak, would give the equivalent of $2,500 a year tax cut to a typical family of four. Trade is big, but not lose sight of it. An agreement on a free trade area of the Americas would also generate about an $800 a year tax cut for a typical family. Why is trade such a big deal? Well, we all know as consumers we benefit